Hey, I wanted to pop on because I am starting a new series on frugal, holistic health techniques, things that are easy to integrate, that are powerful for our health, and that don't cost a lot. So the first thing I'm going to show is how to easily section a grapefruit. We all know that vitamin C is super important for our immunity, for our skin health, for digestive health, and it's definitely best to get it as much as you can from whole foods versus pills or capsules. You can use powders and things like that, but my preferred way is to get at least 2 fruits that are high in vitamin C each day. And this means we not only get the vitamin C, but we also get the other nutrients and minerals in them as well. And we get a really deep hydration, which if you've read any of my work or watched any of my videos, I talk a lot about deep hydration and how important it is for many aspects of our health, for our lymphatic health, for our immune system, for our circulation, especially as we age. So definitely these are great skills to have. You can just go buy a huge bag of grapefruit, go to grocery outlet or whatever store you can find them for the most cost effectiveness. Get organic if you can. If not, you're not going to be using the peel unless you want to dry it and powder it, which there are benefits to that as well. So if you are going to dry and powder the peel, then I would recommend doing your best to get organic, at least unsprayed. If you can get local unsprayed that aren't necessarily designated organic, those are usually fine. Just check with the grower and see what they use. So the first thing we're going to do is find the 2 ends, right? So the end where it was attached to the tree and the other little end that's usually a little bit flatter. And we're just going to cut off both of those. And we're not going to cut off that much, just kind of enough to get off the white part and start exposing the flesh, the little pulps. So, and it's okay if there's a little bit of white still left on one side, because we're going to go back and kind of shave all around. Actually, I'm going to use a smaller knife because it's a little easier to see, and it's a little safer. So I use my big bread knife a lot because I section like 10 grapefruits a day sometimes, and it's just easier to get through it. But if you're just starting out, a nice steak knife can work. We don't want it too serrated because that can start to rip it up, but small serrations, as long as it's a thin blade, should be fine. You can also use a paring knife. And it doesn't have to be too flexible, but a little bit of flexibility is nice. They have special tools that you can get for sectioning grapefruits, but I don't find that they're really necessary. Once you learn how to do it correctly, it goes pretty quickly. So I cut that end, I'm going to cut the other end, and I'm just bracing it down, kind of gripping with a claw, but making sure that my fingertips are tucked away so that I don't accidentally slice into my skin. All right, so I did another small slice just because I really only got, there was still a lot of white left. And that's okay that we have a number of the little pulps and juices in here, because we're going to squeeze these onto our finished bowl when we're done. So we just set those aside. Anything that still has juice in it, everything else you can set in your compost or trash pile. And then I'm hoping that you can see, let me move a little closer here. So what I'm going to do is start, so it's laying flat on one side, whatever side is the most flat. You want it nice and sturdy. And we're going to use our claw with our fingertips tucked in and hold it down so it doesn't roll around at all. We don't want to risk slicing our finger, and we want to keep it as nice and even a cut as possible. So we're just supporting it. Starting at the top at about a 45-degree angle with the top of the knife tilted towards you, so the blade pointed outward, we're going to start gently sawing back and forth. So we're just making like a little incision at the top, and we're going to follow the curve of the grapefruit. So you might leave a lot of the white, the pith, or you might cut a lot of the pulp off, and either one is okay. Remember, we're gonna reuse whatever pulp we cut off for juice at the end. So, but if there's a lot of white left, you can go ahead and kind of readjust. I don't know, I'm being a little shy about it right now. Usually I just go right for it. But I'm wanting to make sure that you really see it clearly. So I'm going about maybe a quarter of the way down with a nice cut at that 45-degree angle. Then I turn it to the blade flat down, and then I curve it to the blade pointing inward 45-degree angle. And that usually will get most of it off without leaving too much pulp on the peel. So you just continue going all the way around, and it's okay as you go if you leave a lot on, because you just go back and shave it off gently. And then at the end, we'll go back and kind of clean it up. But it doesn't have to be perfect, because as we section it, we kind of bypass a lot of the pith anyways. So once you've got most of the sides cleaned up, you usually will still have a lot on the part that was closest to the board, because it's hard to curve under there. So you just pick it up, and with the blade pointing away from you, saw just underneath as you're pushing forward, and you're turning the grapefruit as you go to clean that up. So it's just off, and again, it's okay if you get a lot of the pulp on there. And you can leave small amounts of the white on, especially on the bottom, because as we section it, that will just kind of get pulled to the side. So watching your fingers as you turn it, you don't want to get too close to your fingers. You want to stay at least an inch or so away. And just following the pith that's left. When it's pretty clean, you're feeling good about it, you can be as anal as you want, but just the more anal you are, the more likely you are to actually cut off the pulp and have to have more juice than pulp. So if you like more juice than pulp, I would just go ahead and squeeze it. So do your best to leave as much of the pulp on without stressing out. And then you have a bowl. It can be any bowl. Just want it underneath you to catch it. And you find the sections. And so to start, I'm going to go to the right of the membrane here and just saw it down into it. And I'm holding it up. I don't recommend that you hold it up like this. I just want you to see it. So normally I would just hold it in front of me and saw down, and then you go to just on the left side of the next membrane and saw down, again at about a 45-degree angle. And depending on the type of grapefruit you had, there might be big or small seeds in there. That's okay. You can pick them out as you go, and if a little bit of seeds gets in the bowl, you just pick them out at the end. All right, so you just do the same thing, sawing down to the right of the membrane and then to the left of the next membrane as you go. And it's easy when you're just starting out because it's nice and full, so it gives you something to kind of push against. And if there's some pith that gets in your way, you can just gently saw it off. So as you go down the first one, sometimes you can kind of pull the membrane to the side, but sometimes it'll rip the pulp. So if you like your sections nice and whole, just saw down gently and don't pull away at the membrane if you can. One thing I like to do is after I'm done sawing down the second half, I'll kind of lift up the section and then flick it into the bowl. You can use your fingers, but oops, had some good seeds there. So you're just going all the way through. You can support the membrane with your thumb when it starts getting about halfway because you're not having something to push against for that first incision into the right side of the first membrane. Just make sure you don't get your thumb directly in the way of the knife. And again, don't worry if there's a lot of pulp left on the membrane, because at the end we're going to squeeze all of the membrane sections to get that juice out. So I'm just going to quickly go through the rest of it. And once you get this down, it really just takes a couple minutes. And if you get nice big grapefruits, then you can get a lot for your time. These are pretty small because that's what they had. And when you get to this last one, I just, hold these kind of against it for some support and hold it with my thumb. And it gets a little tricky, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's more important to not cut your thumb than to have a perfect section. All right, pick out any seeds you find. And then we're gonna take this, cup it in your hand. If there are seeds and stuff in there, we wanna try and not squirt out as many as we can. So I just hold my finger slightly open like a sieve and squeeze from the top in. Move it around a little bit just to make sure we get all the sections. You can definitely use a juicer, but it's kind of hard because all the sections are out, so it gets a little floppy. So it's easier to just squeeze it by hand. And then you get the nice healing juices on your hand. You can put it on your face for a mask if you want, or you can just lick your hand. So then you take the peels and just squeeze or strip out the juice into the bowl. And I like to add at least a little bit of honey with most of my grapefruit, unless it's a super sweet one, or sometimes a little bit of stevia. And it makes a great combination. Honey is very healing. Stevia is very healing as well, as long as your body reacts well to it. The other thing I wanted to show was how to section a mango. So we're making a mango grapefruit salad right now. Not everyone likes mango and grapefruit together, but it's good to know how to section both. Mangoes are a great source of nutrients. They're very satisfying sweet flavor, and you can usually get them for pretty inexpensively. I got these for 99 cents each. They're not organic, but it's a treat that my kids love and will eat instead of candy. So you're gonna do the same thing that you did for the grapefruit, except you're going to stand it so that the little bump top is facing up, and you're going to